Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me this wonderful Tuesday. I'm your host, Louise H. Reed. As an empowerment coach for women, I'm using this awesome global platform every Tuesday at this time to explore the incredible journey of amazing people who have truly embraced the notion of taking brave, bold action in pursuit of their dreams and their goals. And today's guest is just that, a wonderful human being who is going to share with us her journey. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we hear directly from Terriann Muller. So with nearly 20 years of experience in corporate training, Terriann spent her career working to help Fortune 500 organizations, as well as individuals, to tap into their power and improve their ability to be, do, and have more. Being drawn to personal development and human growth as a young child, Terriann considers it a huge honor and blessing to have worked with the late, great Zig Ziglar, as well as the global giant Sandler Training. Now, Terriann's a certified coach and a passionate wellness expert. She takes her expansive skill set to follow her life's dream, to help others see their world differently. As a grief coach, she focuses specifically on widows. These women are near and dear to her heart, having lost her husband nearly 7 years ago to an aggressive form of cancer. Her coaching model is three-pronged, helping widowed women to recover, reclaim, and redesign their life into a confident and independent life as a confident, independent woman. Terriann's a lifelong learner and continues taking courses and certifications and works with her own coach to keep her skill set sharp. Finally, Terriann, known for her ability to inspire change in others, both in mindset and action, focuses on learning through engagement and reflection, as well as actionable tools to achieve results. She's a highly interactive and engaging speaker and facilitator with unmatched authenticity, openness, and kind candor. Welcome to the show, Terriann.
Thank you, Louise. I'm so happy and honored to be here.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this show after you and I having shared a few conversations over the last couple of months. So how are you doing this Tuesday morning?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. I am just having a great day. Started out very well.
Good. So as you know, I'm fascinated by people's unique life journeys. And specifically how we use our challenges to find our own path. I picked out, I've got this Gabrielle Bernstein card pack. I'm not sure, I'm probably not calling it the right thing. Yeah, 52 card deck. Shocking. Okay. So it consists of 52 cards, and it's called The Universe Has Your Back. And each card has on it a saying, a quote, and then it's just some beautiful artwork. And today I picked out one that says, obstacles are detours in the right direction. And it absolutely made me think of you and some of the things that you had come up in your journey and in your path. So why don't you get us started and tell us a little bit about your journey. So share what you like, and then we'll dive deep into some of those pockets as we go through the hour.
All right. Well, I just want to preface it with, I thought about it this morning and how much should I share, because I think that sometimes my story is a bit overwhelming for people. And as I coach widows, I find out that there's other women and certainly people out there that have had so much tragedy and so much trauma. But even though we take our time to grieve, and we really have to honor that grief in order to use it as a launch pad to do something, magnificent with our life, I help women that are ready to take life on and make something amazing out of it. So I decided I'm going to share it all. When I was 15, and I'll make it quick, my sister died. I was 15. She was 20. She was tragically killed on a motorcycle accident. And interestingly, my parents, I didn't even remember it. They said, when my older sister came, she wasn't living with us, and he said, there will be no crying in this house. And I didn't realize it literally until 40 years later that we were not allowed to grieve. And so that has to come out. So we have to do our grieving. We have to honor it. We have to deal with it. We have to move through it. in order to really be healthy. So that was kind of the start of what I call a shit show. But, you know, making the best of things. I've always been amazingly, my friends sometimes call me a Pollyanna because I'm just so seeing my cup half full or running over. And I credit that a lot to my faith, and I'm a believer, and that has gotten me through more things. But moving on from that, let me think, who was next? So then my brother was killed. He was 32 and I was 29. So I have helped people that have lost a sibling as a child and also as an adult. And both tragic accidents, very strange.
It is, and so difficult to kind of understand how that plays a role in through your life often, until you get to later in life, you realize that the path that's helped to pave for you.
Absolutely, yeah. So when
this is not the only close death that you've experienced. Why don't you share with us a little bit more about some of the other? It sounds awful. The other losses that you have experienced that's kind of got you to where you are in your life now.
Right. So then I, you know, just kind of going down the list, I lost my mom. She died in my arms from a chemotherapy overdose, and that was awful. But next, I lost my husband to an aggressive form of cancer. So you begin to really say, okay, what the hell is going on here? Like, wow. And I think it was 3 years later, my son overdosed and died from heroin. And
Terriann.
I know. So, you know, again, I go back to my faith. I have had amazing friends and a support group. But I knew when my husband died, I didn't want to, I just really didn't want to be in that corporate world anymore. I didn't feel like I could thrive there anymore. And plus I was pretty broken. So I took some time off, and accidentally I became a health coach, a certified holistic health coach. And then from that, I've also launched this Renegade Widow program. And it's just my absolute passion to help other women to move through their grief. And I say just to become a badass again, because, you know, I tell my clients that you can let it make you or break you, but there's really no middle ground. If you're in the middle ground, you're stuck, and it's not a good place to be for anybody.
Yeah, it reminds me of, I'm a Tony Robbins fan, and I'm going to see Tony Robbins in September.
Woohoo!
I know. I'm pretty pumped. Seeing Tony Robbins was on my bucket list, and so that's nice to see that. That's one thing that's going to get checked off. He says something that if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boat.
I was just thinking about that yesterday.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of what you're saying, right? You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're really in or you're out.
Yeah.
And I think the tough things that we go through in life, we have to take, like you said, take head on. Otherwise, because I think they're difficult, they are difficult to get through. And if you don't throw yourself in fully, and then surround yourself with the right people to support you as you go through,
right,
you won't get through, or not necessarily in the way that you wish to get through.
Yes,
you may survive but not thrive. I don't know about you, but I have lived a life of surviving, and I don't really want to be doing that anymore. So if you think back to some of those specific situations that you commented on, the losses that you've experienced in life, you credit a lot of getting through those crisis situations with your faith. Talk to us about like how you kind of got through your first sort of step out of the darkness. And I'm asking you this because I think that listeners can all relate, whether they themselves have experienced the death of a loved one, or job loss, or homelessness, for whatever reason, perhaps some sort of, whether there's a fire or some other tragedy that they find themselves without their home. We've all experienced that kind of deep sense of, what am I going to do? Yeah. So considering you have come out the other side numerous times, what advice would you have for people to kind of to get what's that first step towards getting out of that darkness?
I think that it boils down to literally tapping in and knowing that God has your back, and no matter where you find yourself, it's faith. You can have faith or fear. It's believing in something that hasn't transpired. And there were days where, I'm not kidding you, I didn't want to live. Now, I never would do anything about that, but how the hell do you go on in this crazy life? And I just continued to lean on my faith and do the next step in front of me.
Yeah, it's funny. It sounds so simple, but I think we tend to overcomplicate our lives. My sister was very ill when she was 21, and ended up having a bone marrow transplant. Lucy, if you're listening, I hope you're okay with me just put that on the global radio show. And I remember saying to my dad, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, even though she was the one that was sick. Obviously, an illness of that magnitude affects everyone. And he said, well, can you get through today? I said, yeah, I can get through today. That's all you have to get through.
Yeah, wow, that's great advice.
Yeah, and I thought that was really helpful while you embark on that kind of journey, because it's a journey, that's for sure. So through all of this, or through some of these, what are some of the biggest lessons that you personally have learned?
This is going to sound bad. This might not encourage people.
It's honest, and that's what I love about you, Terriann.
It is. Even though life happens, I go back to when my brother died, and I feel like I still haven't moved past the stage of being angry. To an extent. I've accepted it, of course, and it's been a long time, but what I learned is that even though something tragic has happened, that doesn't mean that you've paid your dues and you don't get to have more life, because it continues to happen. And it does. Life continues to happen. And what I've learned is, as you grow your muscle strength to move forward and to process things, it's the only thing that can get you through. And you realize that, I've been to the point where I say, I know I'm going to sleep tonight in my bed, and I know I'm going to have food tomorrow. So those are the two basic needs that I have and that I need. And so just, accepting things and processing it, and surround yourself with good information. I listen to, podcast every morning, something to wake up to, something to encourage me, and really keeping my head moving in the right direction. Doesn't mean to say that I don't fall on the couch sometimes and just say, what the hell?
Yeah.
But just like you said, can you get through today?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I said while my husband was fighting his cancer was, I don't have time to worry. I don't have time to be paralyzed. I was the primary caregiver. We don't have any family in Arizona. And so I just had to say to myself, I don't have time to worry. So wait to worry. I'll never forget, I was driving to the hospice house. It was about a 20-minute drive. And I got a call from his doctor, and he said, he has a couple of days to live. And it was then that I realized he really was going to die. And so I don't know if it's good or bad, but I kept myself in motion, because I said, today I don't have time to worry.
Yeah, I think so much of what you said I can relate to in so many other ways, as I'm sure the listening audience can. And I love and appreciate your vulnerability. I really do. So thank you for sharing that, because you've heard me say this before. Listeners have heard me say this before, that in this hyper-connected internet world, we're less connected as human beings than ever before. Right. In the land of social media, we don't typically post the shit that happens in our lives, because, you kind of keep that quiet. And as a result, we're often comparing our insides to other people's outside world. Right. And so I really love how open you are about sharing this stuff with grace and with humor, but with realness. because that's life, and that's really what I like to bring to the show. So I really appreciate that. And you talk a lot about mindset without having used the word mindset. And having a positive mindset, I think a lot of people misconstrue that notion, thinking that you find, or that you're sort of happy-go-lucky in every situation that arises. And so, and I don't think that's not what a positive mindset really is. It's more about what you were saying, kind of like reframing things. And then when things are shit, you lie down, throw yourself on the couch, say this is shit, but you don't decorate that. You don't decorate it. You don't continue to live in that space, acknowledge it, feel it, and then look at the silver lining, so to speak. So do you have like a personal motto or mantra or affirmation or series of them that have sort of helped you through more difficult times, or that you help when you're, coaching women, that you find particularly helpful?
I do. There's a couple of things. And when I find myself really, really down, I do one of two things. Sounds kind of crazy, but I either write a check to charity, or I go out. Anywhere I go, the post office, the grocery store, anywhere I go, I interact with people that are strangers. And just, I think our world is so, robotic, in the sense that we move through our days and we don't lock eyes with people. We just move past them. And I always say that I know I can change the world by being kind. And the reason I think that is, Zig Ziglar used to tell a story about the executive that was on his way to work, and somebody cut him off, and so he got angry, and then he went in and yelled at his secretary, and then the secretary yelled at the copy boy, and I'm completely paraphrasing, but the copy boy went and yelled at his peer in the mailroom, and then the peer in the mailroom went home and yelled at his wife, and the wife yelled at the kid, and the kid kicked the cat. What he says is, the executive should have just went and kicked the cat instead of ruining everybody's day. So when I'm feeling really blue, I'll go out and I just smile at people. I'll talk to them in line wherever I'm at. I'll pay for somebody's coffee behind me in Starbucks, and it makes me feel better. I'm not doing it for them, which sounds kind of selfish, but it turns my day around. And
Again, it's simple, right? It's the simple stuff that really grounds us, connects us to ourselves, to our own inner self, as well as to the outside world. Right. I'm in the process of finishing a 7-day happiness challenge, and it's about how attitude, gratitude, and money can make you happy. And so it talks about, there's a day for attitude and positive mindset, gratitude, kindness, and using money to buy experiences, not things. And so very much, our thinking is very much aligned. So along the same lines as what you're talking about, what do you think the world needs more of?
I think the world needs more kindness. I think that, again, going back to just being robotic through your day. And I always say, be kind to others, because you never know what they're going through. And, if somebody cuts you off, I am not a flipper offer at all. I just, I think, and I'm not saying I don't scared or, get scared and it doesn't give me a head rush, but you never know what somebody's going through. And if they do something rude to you, 99.9% of the time has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, we do tend to make things about ourselves when that's not even the case, is it?
No.
Yeah, their life is about them. Your life is about you. Yeah, essentially. So you've been through a lot, as you've summarized for us, and you are now a business owner. Through everything that you have been so far, what is the scariest thing that you have done?
Gosh, I mean, the list is long. The scariest thing I've done, I don't know, because Let
me choose one for you then. Let me choose one for you. So
okay.
Maybe it's not fear that you feel. Maybe I'm putting that word, putting that label on something, and you didn't actually feel that. I I'm thinking about when you made the jump from corporate to starting your own business. What were the feelings, whether it was fear or perhaps it's something else? How did you make, like, what were you feeling, and then how did you make the leap? That's what I'm really interested in you sharing with us as well, because that's a tough leap.
Okay, so through the process, and it started more after my husband died and then my son, I began to realize that I was not, my career has been in high level sales. And that is just not something that I'm interested in participating in anymore.
Yeah.
And so I had just returned from a trip to India. I went with my church on a mission over there, and I was sitting on my back porch, and I was praying, and I said, God, I don't believe that you have allowed me to go through all of this for nothing. What can I do? Please, And it was minutes later that I went on my Facebook because I had so much going on, because I was feeling very unmotivated to work doing corporate sales. And anyway, so a thing popped up on my Facebook, and Mel Robbins says you can change your mind in 5 seconds. So if you feel something, do it. And a feed came up, and I registered for a webinar, and here I am. So it was really haphazard. And I don't regret it at all. I really believe that everything I've been through is going to help other people. And every day I wake up and show up and try to do everything I possibly can to impact other lives.
I love that. That's really beautifully said. And I just want to pause for one moment, and anyone who's just joined the show, welcome to the Louise H. Reed Show. We have with us today Terriann Muller, and she's just sharing her journey with us from high-level sales to entrepreneurship. That's where we are in the conversation, so welcome if you're just joining us. So I want to go rewind the clock a little bit. What did you want to be when you were a child? So when someone asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, what did you say?
Good question. I say often that I didn't dream of being a nurse or a teacher or even an astronaut. What I've always been driven to do is help others to do and have more. But I just didn't know what that was going to look like. And honestly, I loved being a wife. I loved being a mom. I loved being a homemaker. So none of that is glamorous. But I've always said I just want to help others, but I don't know in what capacity. And boy, oh boy, has stuff just happened. It literally launched me, thrown me into this.
Well, the universe knew what that was going to be, but you had to go through those unfortunate tragedies to put the pieces together, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because if the universe couldn't tell you that, you'd have no idea what that would have meant. And so I'm sure as you've gone through life, as I have, the definition of success and how you define success in your own life has likely evolved over time. I know when I was younger, specifically referring to being in high school, my idea of I was very clear on what success looked like. It was very tactical, and there was steps. Every single step along the way was laid out to the point that I had blinders onto any other opportunity, because I thought this is where I'm going and this is the only path that's going to get me there. Mm-hmm. Little did I know it got me there, but I didn't feel successful. So I've kind of done a bit of a redesign about how I define success. So I'm interested, how do you look at success, and what kind of defines success for you in your life at this stage?
I think that success is inner peace. I think that it is having good relationships with friends and family and clients, and being genuine and not feeling like you cannot be authentic because somebody's going to judge you. And then, of course, the monetary part is having the money to enjoy nice things, but also to help others.
The more you make, the more you can give.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. You have a greater impact a greater opportunity to positively impact others. I know when I hear about, I'm thinking right now, and I know my partner Jay, who is listening, is going to probably do another fist pump, which he sometimes does when I talk about Ronaldo, soccer. We're huge soccer fans, and he is a Ronaldo fan. And Ronaldo gives a lot to charities and to help others around the world. And I know some people say, oh, well, of course, he has a lot of money, he can do that. But there are plenty of people who have a lot of money who don't.
Right.
Right. And so I think you bring up an interesting topic, though, about money. And I think that we are, certainly in our society, I feel like we are got an interesting, sometimes somewhat toxic relationship with money, that it's something that we need to have, yet we're not supposed to want too much. And I've just read an interesting book, Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass at Making Money, which is an awesome book if anyone is interested in that kind of read. It is actually, I think it's actually on my website as one of my recommended reads, because I like to share my
yeah, she's awesome.
Have you read that book?
I haven't read that one, but I did read You Are a Badass. I've listened to the audio 25 times.
Yeah, so you know her sort of philosophy. You probably would love her book. I should send you a copy of my book to read. I think you'd love it. So what are your thoughts on that whole money thing? Because we were just commenting on the more money that you make, the more opportunity you have to give and impact a greater audience. So what are your thoughts on our society and thinking of the idea of money is dirty?
I think it goes back to your money story. I think a lot of that stems from when you were a child and what you were taught about money. I've never been uncomfortable asking people for money. And I say that because I'm in sales. And a lot of times when you go into your own business, you have to address and redirect your own money story. But I think that God wants us to thrive and prosper and be able to do the things that help other people. And I think the more money, the better.
Bring it on. So, you've touched on your childhood. We've heard about your son and your husband who has passed. I know that you've got amazing people in your life now. Who do you lean on now during times of, because I think we all need people at various times in our life to celebrate the good and help us through the bad. So tell us a little bit about who people you have in your corner now.
Okay, so I guess the person I lean on the most is a lovely gentleman that I met on Match.com. And it was about 1.5 years after my husband died. And I was sitting home one Sunday evening having a glass of wine. I'm like, God, I'm so bored. And I was coming out of the fog, and I was waking up, and I was ready to live my life. So I thought, I'm going to get on a dating website. I'd never, ever done anything like that. My very first match date was my boyfriend, Mike. And so,
hi, Mike.
Hi. And we just, we get along so good, but he's also a very successful business owner, and he coaches me and he supports me and he encourages me, and he's there when I need to just cry on his shoulder. And so he's a great guy. I'm so blessed. And I want to point out the fact that he was my very first match date. And I continued to date, and so did he, much more than me, because I honestly wasn't interested after I met him, but it was important to see what was out there. And the reason I say that is because I don't want the widows to give up hope and to think that's all there was, and to feel encouraged that there is somebody out there for them. Life is for the living.
Life is for the living.
Life is for the living. And then I also have a business coach that I work with, and her name is Christy. She's phenomenal, and she actually helped me. She does energetic healing, which before I met her, I didn't have a clue what that meant. But I had a huge trigger about my sister 40 years ago when she died. And it threw me on my knees. I mean, it was bad. It was so bizarre. But so she helped get me through that. So she's my business coach. She's my friend. I'm blessed to have met her just in September of last year. And I have, so that's it. Most of my family's already up in heaven.
Yeah. I love how you commented both from, a personal perspective and a professional perspective. I believe that everyone needs a therapist and a coach and friends and family. I
Absolutely.
really, really do, because depending on the situation that you're in, you reach out to the appropriate party or parties to get you through that challenge. And I don't believe that your partner can be your coach. They can coach you, as you were saying. Mike has elements of that in what he does with you, but it's too close. It's too close. And so I think I hired my first coach just over a year ago, and I never want to be without a coach ever again.
I agree.
Yeah. So how would you suggest to someone, if someone's listening right now? Well, there's two things I have about starting your own business. So my first question is, what advice would you have for people who may be listening right now who'd like to leave their job and start their own small business? So having been through that before, what is a few pieces of advice you would give to them?
I would say never stop trying. If you run into a brick wall and something's not working, you just redirect yourself and look for another path. It's when you give up that you can no longer say that you're trying to work your business. And I don't want to use the word failure, because I think failure is an event, not a person. Excuse me. And so just keep trying and look what's working. The other thing, and I was just coached yesterday from Mike, that, don't, if you have busy work and you're cleaning your desk, and I was going to rearrange my office, he said, don't construe that as something productive. That's a weekend job. And really helped me to hunker down and get refocused and just keep going.
I think that's a really good piece of advice. It's easy to mistake productivity with busy work, like you were just saying. It really, really is. And as a business owner myself, I can relate to that. And then what would you say in terms of those who may be listening who want to hire a coach? So if they see, if they're hearing some things that resonate with your story, so whether it's you through the situations that you've been through and the kind of coaching you do now, or whether they're trying to start their own business and need another type of coach, how do you find the right coach? What advice would you have?
Well, I always say I have two business partners, the two G's, God and Google. And so I would interview coaches. I would decide what I'm trying to get out of a coach or what I want to get out of a coach. And for me, I do a 1 hour discovery call with anybody that I might potentially work with. And the reason I do that is together we have to decide if it's a good fit. And I say it often, I'm not for everybody. I'm strong and I'm direct and I'm honest, but I'm also very loving and compassionate. So that, I would say find somebody that you can work with and understand in your mind what exactly you're looking to get out of something like that, out of getting, from a coach.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really important question about being clear on where you want to be. It's not about where you are right now. It's about identifying where do you want to be and who is that person who's going to expedite that.
Yeah.
I know I myself probably took about 10 years through trial and error getting myself from point A to point B that I now help people with over 3 months. So I know, which is why I never find myself in that situation again. Maybe I'm a slow learner, but I'm thankful that I've learned that. You talked a little bit about failure, and I liked your approach to failure. So why do you believe people fail? Because they stop?
I think it's because they stop and they might not have a plan in place or a roadmap. And I don't know if it's an old saying or it's something I coined myself. I really don't. But I say that confused people do nothing. And if you don't have a roadmap, you can think, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to be, but I have no clue how to get there. And so without having the steps in place, and sometimes it comes down to as simple as making a list of the things you need to do. And it can be your 1-day list and your 6-month list and your 1-year list and on out from there. But without a plan, you've heard the expression, fail to plan, plan to fail.
Yeah.
So I think just having a roadmap, and that's where a coach comes in and is so helpful, because when I was widowed, I had no idea where to start. I'm a very determined, very high level. If you've heard of the DISC profile, I'm a high D, where I'm just a fire, aim, let's get it done. And just didn't know where to start. So again, back to your point of wishing you would have had what you do now. It took you 10 years to learn everything. It did me as well, or even longer. And that's what people get out of a coach. So just having somebody to walk beside you and show you the ways to go. And
call you out on your own BS.
Yes.
I think we all have these stories in our minds, which we often set up these false barriers.
Right.
That get in the way. The barriers often disguised as excuses, which might be real things, but those coaches can help break those down. I was trying to remember a quote that I like about goals versus dreams, and I think it goes something like a goal without a plan is a dream.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So I completely resonate with that. Kind of recapping a little bit as well about your whole life journey and all the successes that you've had along the way. What accomplishment are you most proud of?
I am most proud of the fact that I still have a good attitude.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you're hilarious. You've got like a really great sense of humor. You laugh a lot.
I use humor for everything, and I throw a mean funeral. They're so much fun.
Maybe there's another business opportunity.
Oh, yeah. People can handle it. I'm their girl. Yeah. So
I like that because do you tell jokes? Are you a jokester?
I do.
Can you share with me a favorite joke?
Oh gosh. I mean, super quick, and everybody laughs at me because it's so stupid, but I always say that a horse walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Why the long face?"
Oh, Terriann.
It's so stupid. Yeah, I used to tell jokes all the time. I love jokes, but I can't. It's kind of like a Bible verse. I can't, recite them off.
Yeah, off the cuff. I totally.
It just comes to me, but I love jokes.
I totally put you on the spot there.
It's okay.
If someone asked me to tell me my favorite joke, I'd be like, rah. And so speaking of favorites, I'm a huge book lover. And I actually just wanted to share a book that I'm reading right now. It's called That's What She Said.
Oh.
And it says what men need to know and women need to tell them about working together. It's written by Joanne Lipman. Wow. And it's kind of the next book, somewhat similar to Lean In, but it's taking the conversation even further. It's sort of Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, taking that sort of gender equity conversation even further. So anyway, it's an awesome read. That's kind of my top book right now because I'm midway through it and absolutely loving it. But tell me about some favorite books or a book that you've recently read that you'd like to share.
One of my very, very favorite books is, and I did read it after my husband passed away. It's called Wild by Cheryl Strayed. In fact, they made a movie with Reese Witherspoon. Oh, okay. It is so well written and just such an amazing journey that this girl took. She hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. I think it was 100 days of hiking, and her journey of that. It was so well written. I'm also reading a really good book. It's called Uninvited by Lisa Durkheurst. And it's new. I just started it. I'm about on chapter 5, but she talks about being rejected. And a lot of the gals that I talk to that are widowed, I think, having their husband die, and a lot of them say that they lose half of themselves. It is one of the grandest, hugest parts of being rejected.
Wow.
So 2 good books there. Yeah, really.
Wow,
really.
Awesome. So going back to sort of the entrepreneurship, you talk about sort of losing half of yourself in terms of losing a partner. It can be lonely as well with your own business. And you can experience quite a few challenges working for yourself. So what keeps you motivated?
I wake up every day. I'm excited. I love what I do.
That's the biggest thing, isn't it? Love what you do.
Yeah, so I love that. I'm excited. I don't have the Friday afternoon syndrome worrying about Monday morning coming around. And again, my own coach. So somebody to call me out on my crap. And so it's just a matter of, I think that life is too short to do something that is a grind. Yeah. And that's not to say that we don't have to go out and work and make a living and provide for our needs, but find something that you love. And often you can love what you're doing by just changing your mindset.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So let's say someone was just listening and said, okay, you're right, I'm on board. How do I do that?
Well, I think it's a matter of recognizing what you're grateful for and writing a gratitude list. And if it, around your work, because that's what we're talking about, if it's as small as I have covered parking, or there's air conditioning in my building, and just starting to see things in a better way and looking for the good. I keep referencing Zig Ziglar because he was just so stinking awesome. He wrote a book called, Better Than Good. And he talks about being a good finder. So we can focus on the fact, right now it's going to be 110 or 11 degrees in Arizona today.
Wow.
But I'm determined. I've decided this summer, I'm not going to say that I hate the heat. I'm going to just say, I'm so grateful I have air conditioning in my car, so just being a good finder.
Yeah. If you do struggle with that, come visit me in Ottawa in the winter, and then you'll never complain about the Arizona heat again.
I hear that.
I'm just putting that invitation out there. So is it fair to say that Zig Ziglar has been someone who has inspired you? Absolutely. And do you have who else has acted as inspiration for you, whether it's through childhood? I know my mom was a huge part of, was a huge inspiration to me growing up, although I didn't really realize that. I knew that I looked up to her and admired her, but I didn't realize what an inspiration she was until I got into my adult years. So what about you? So we've got Zig Ziglar. Who else has been an important part of your becoming?
I think initially it was my dad, because we were so close, and he, on a third grade education, he started a very successful business, and then he used that money to buy and develop land. And the reason I say that is because sometimes he'd say, well, I'm going up to the ranch, and it was several hundred acres that he was building a planned community on, and develop the water. But I would say, I'm going too. And everywhere he went, I'd hop in the car. I loved spending time with my dad, and we talked business. And then when I moved from California to Arizona, we talked every single night on the phone. And it wasn't just, oh, honey, hi, how are you? It was more, what's next? What are you doing next? And just encouraging me and giving me this amazing confidence and how to carry myself. And then when he passed away, I had my mom to myself, and that's when we really got much closer. Mm-hmm. So same with my mom. She always said, you don't, if I was on a ledge about something and couldn't decide what to do, she said, you don't have to decide today. Yeah. And that was so good, going back to wait to worry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so much that you've shared that's been so insightful along the way. And by means of a recap, I'm interested to understand, if someone's listening right now wondering, well, I wonder if I should reach out to Terriann, maybe not. How would they know if they're the right kind of person to be reaching out to you? How would they be feeling right now, in case they're listening?
I would say that something has resonated with them, and they're getting a quickening in their heart, and thinking, I want to be like that. I want to get out of this dark space, or I want to be around somebody that's more looking into the future and figuring out ways to get there and what you want, and they need a guide.
So the kind of women that you help would be feeling like that. Anything else come to mind that they may be feeling or have gone through that might make them realize, okay, yeah, Terriann's, I need to explore this more?
I guess I would just say there's not really an experience that I can't relate with.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting thing. And
I think that's pretty powerful, though. That's a pretty powerful one. The loss that you have experienced, and both with siblings, a parent, as well as a child. No doubt that has greatly influenced your empathy, understanding, and ability to support and help others, regardless of what they're going through. Because I'm not quite sure there's anything quite like the loss of a loved one that we can go through in our lives. I'm going to quote my mom now, and something that she said when I was younger growing up. She would say when I was getting stressed out or worked up about something. Now this is going to sound a bit harsh, so just sort of hear it and then let me explain. She said, "No one's dying or dead. It can be fixed." She experienced loss in her life of someone that, the most monumental figure in her life. Mm-hmm. And so then growing up, nothing compared to the loss of that. Right? Everything else is fixable unless someone's dying or they have passed.
Yeah.
We can fix this.
Yeah.
And, it goes back to mindset. You were talking about that earlier, and that kind of perspective. And I think that's, it's always really valuable to have that to go back to. So if there are those listening right now who are eager to reach out to you, so to the listeners, I will put Terriann's information on my website, which is louisehreed.com. Also, Terriann, how can people find you? Social media, email, what would be the best way for them to reach out directly to you?
They can go directly to my website. It's renegadewidow.com. And I actually have a free download on my website about how to be awesome, how to feel awesome. And it really boils down to mindset again, but just some practical steps that they can take. So you can go to my website. There's a schedule button. You can schedule a call. We can get on the phone together. I think the other thing that might make people want to work with me is our friends will tell us what we want to hear, a lot of them. If they're looking for somebody to really help them step into their power and not candy coat things and not look for excuses, then that's me.
Love it. And, I keep going back to your words, and I love quotes, and I wrote this one down, and I will credit you for this anytime I use this, Terriann, and that is, life is for the living. And so I do encourage you, listeners out there, to take Terriann up on her offer. She's got some awesome perspectives and ways of working with individuals. So if you do find yourself feeling connected to Terriann, I encourage you to reach out. And so, Terriann, what else would you like people to know about you? What makes you? I truly believe that people choose us because they feel a connection with us. So they'll feel compelled to reach out to you because of your story.
Right.
Also, how you just sort of show up in the world, which is why I love that we do these Facebook Lives as well. So those who are listening over the internet, you should know that live on Contact Talk Radio, Terriann and I are live on the page. It will be shared on Terriann's Facebook page as well as my own as well. But tell us a little bit more about you, like some random sort of interesting tidbits about you. Like for me, for instance, I love to share, so not important, has anything to do with what I do right now, but I love to share that when I was in high school, I was at a basketball summer camp, and I won MVP out of everyone who was at the camp, and I won the best Reebok shoes ever.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's a big thing for me. I think it's a random sort of funny fact. What's something share with us and the listening audience? Tell us something about you, some random thing they're not going to find on your website.
Well, going back to high school, my parents were out of town, so I spent the weekend with some girlfriends of mine, and my parents knew their parents really well. And one of the girls was going to be in a beauty pageant, and it's small town. My mom was the mayor twice in the town, super small town.
That's cool. That's even a cool fun fact.
That is a kind of a cool fun fact, but. Yeah. She says, you should do it too. And I said, okay. So her parents paid the entry fee for me. My parents were out of town. I did have a long gown, but I didn't have the right shoes. So I won this beauty contest with no shoes on.
That's pretty funny.
It was fun. Yeah.
That's very fun. I love these random things. I think these kinds of connections are interesting, and you find similarities you know, in others that you wouldn't otherwise find. I was at an event on the weekend. One of my friends is running for local councillor. And there were a lot of women from different parts in her life who were all there together, and we all wore, you know, a name tag and something that we were most proud of. And what I thought was interesting was only women at this event, because it was specifically, that's just what it was. And as everyone was entering, they were given a name tag and a marker and instructed to please put your name on and what you're most proud of, like I said. But the caveat was it can't be your children. And it's so funny because everyone, as soon as all the women heard that, they're like, oh, yeah. And it was actually tough for them to talk about and think of something to write on their sticker, which I actually, as I was observing, I actually found that quite interesting. Yeah. That's likely where most of us were kind of going to our children. And so I guess another random fact about me is I donated bone marrow to my sister. So that's I know, and it's funny because people do have that kind of response, which is very kind, and I feel very grateful. But really, what was I supposed to do? Right. I was honored to be the one. Don't get me wrong, and I said that at the time. And I know one of my brothers was quite disappointed it wasn't him. But yeah, I'm not going to say, nah, not so sure I'm going to share that with you. Didn't happen. Anyway, we are coming close to the top of the hour. I want to give you a last moment to share anything that you wish to share with the listening audience that perhaps you haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, Terriann.
I would just say that my coaching program is broken down into 3 parts, and one is for the women that are just still kind of deep in it. One is for when they're looking to reclaim themselves outside of being a wife and maybe even a mom. And the third one is if you're ready to get your sexy back on and get out there and start dating and meet someone wonderful like I did. That's what it's all about.
You're that person. I love it. Well, Terriann, it has been an absolute pleasure. We are now at the top of the hour. Time has just zoomed past. I want to thank you once again for your courage to share so willingly and authentically. And you are truly, in my eyes, a beautiful example of taking brave, bold action in pursuit of your own dreams and goals. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really, really enjoyed and I'm honored to be on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So if anyone wishes to hear a whole recap of the show, that will be on my website, soon to also be on iHeartRadio, and you can find us on iTunes as well. And so at this time, I'd like to thank all my listeners and loyal followers and remind you that information about my wonderful guest today, Terriann, and all my prior guests can be found on my website, louisehreed.com. I'd also like to give a big shout out, as I always do, to my producer at Contact Talk Radio, Cameron. And in the words of Terriann Muller, life is for the living. So at this time, I would like to encourage you to be brave, be bold, and be happy. Until next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm Louise H. Reed, wishing you an amazing day.